I enjoy it, and I like helping. At this point in my life, I've got time where I can do some things.
I think that's wonderful.
And there's a point I didn't have time for that. I couldn't do it, man.
It's a thankless job.
Yeah.
And you got to be prepared for that. You know, a lot of criticism comes along with that, and you know, people find fault with every little thing you do, and you know, and they'll come to your house and knock on your door and say, "Hey, why did you make this decision?" Again, big believer in transparency, and a little bit of communication goes such a long way. And people get so fired up about things that are nonsense that you know, because they've heard wrong information. And local government a lot of times are adverse to being transparent and communicating things because they don't want the criticism. And I understand that, but also it creates so many problems. You know,
you know what helps me? I've been a TV preacher for 35 years.
Sure.
So talk about criticism.
And
being in front of everything. I mean, I've had, "Aren't you a preacher?" 1,000 times. Okay, and I said, "Yeah, but it don't mean I won't slap you." Okay, just because I'm a preacher, I'm a little different kind. So I mean, there's things in people like the criticism's there, and sometimes people want to say and people change their mind. You know what I mean? You got to take your foot off people's throats sometimes and let them take a breath. And they go through situations in our life and like you said, we're only a little bit away from sometimes being in a bad position. And I don't know, I enjoy trying to help and make a little bit of difference. And I think the transfer of information is one of the greatest things. If I can get what you've got in your spirit, if I can get a glimpse of that out in somebody that's got a small town, and let them think a little bit and start thinking about what they can do for their community, just one or two people, man. What could we change?
And people, not enough people show up to those meetings, you know, and I'm guilty, right? If I have an issue, I'll show up, but at this point I don't really make it a regular practice to go. But how else do you know? You know, they're making decisions in those rooms, should be making them public, right? Especially with your tax dollars. The budget meetings are open to the public. People should be there to voice their concerns, because especially from a small business owner standpoint, you know, I just happened to be at a town council meeting, you know, it was probably 2 years ago, for one particular issue, and then while I was there, I noticed on the agenda that there's a meals tax discussion. Well, I own a restaurant, and I want to know what they're going to talk about, so I stayed, and it was to waive a new restaurant's meals tax, and you know, you can go in and sign in for your 3 minutes at the end. So I stood up, and I went and signed in. I said, "How is that fair? You know, you're putting this business at a great advantage to us who have been paying your 8% meals tax in the town of Tazewell for all these years, right? That's not fair." And every single one of them were like, "Oh, we didn't think about that." So if there's not someone advocating. You know, for the business community, especially in the room, I think that there needs to be, you know, on those elected boards, there needs to be representation from the business community, and that doesn't always happen. You know, we've got one or two on there now that are entrepreneurs and business minded, and so I love seeing that, because the decisions they make primarily impact the business community, right? And so there needs to be someone to say, "Hey, that's not fair," you know.
And too, sometimes we think people understand that don't understand. Okay, they don't understand. They can't see it from the same point of view. Some people you might think's a crook just don't understand.
That's right.
Okay,
no, that's
you say, "Look at that rascal," but then when they just didn't understand.
That's right.
And there's things that you run into, you're thinking, you know, they just don't understand. They can't see it from that point of view. And I don't know. I found that out to be a lot.